Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if I told you that a simple quarter from 1998, one that probably passed through your hands dozens of times, could be worth an absolutely staggering $25 million? Most people spend this coin every single day without giving a second thought, tossing it into vending machines, parking meters, or leaving it forgotten in couch cushions, completely unaware that they might be letting go of a fortune that could change their entire life. Imagine reaching into your pocket right now, pulling out what looks like ordinary pocket change, and discovering that you're holding a coin so rare, so valuable, that collectors and investors around the world would fight tooth and nail just to own it. This is the reality of the 1998p Washington quarter, a coin that looks absolutely identical to millions of others minted that same year. Yet certain examples of this seemingly common piece have reached valuations that would make even seasoned numismatists' jaws drop in absolute disbelief. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this particular quarter so extraordinarily valuable, I need you to understand something crucial. This 1998p Washington quarter isn't alone in the world of shockingly valuable modern quarters. And if you stick with me until the very end of this video, I'm going to reveal two more Washington quarters from the mid-1990s that are worth even more than this one, with price tags that will absolutely blow your mind and make you want to check every single quarter you've ever owned. But first, let's focus on why this 1998p Washington quarter has numismatic experts and serious collectors willing to pay $25 million for the right specimen. The year 1998 was seemingly unremarkable in the world of coin production. The Philadelphia Mint, indicated by that small p mint mark, was churning out hundreds of millions of Washington quarters for everyday circulation, and on the surface, there was nothing particularly special about the production run that year. These quarters featured the classic George Washington profile that has graced America's quarter since 1932, designed by sculptor John Flanagan, with a familiar eagle on the reverse side that Americans had grown accustomed to seeing for decades. The Philadelphia Mint alone produced over 896 million quarters in 1998, flooding the market with these coins and making them seem as common as, well, loose change. So what could possibly make one of these quarters worth $25 million when hundreds of millions were made? The answer lies in the absolutely fascinating world of mint errors, die varieties, and striking anomalies that can transform an ordinary coin into a numismatic treasure beyond anyone's wildest imagination. You see, during the minting process at any U.S. mint facility, there are countless opportunities for small mistakes, variations, and errors to occur. Dies can crack, planchets can be improperly prepared, strikes can be off-center, and sometimes coins can even be struck on the wrong type of planchet entirely. In the case of the 1998p Washington quarter, experts have identified several incredibly rare error types that can send values skyrocketing into the millions. One of the most sought-after errors is the double die obverse error, where the die used to strike the coin was itself struck multiple times during the die-making process, creating a doubling effect on certain design elements that becomes visible under magnification. On the 1998p quarter, this doubling can appear most dramatically on Washington's profile, the word liberty, the date, or the motto, "I in God we trust." And when this doubling is particularly strong and clearly visible, collectors go absolutely wild. Another incredibly valuable variety involves what's called a wrong planchet error, where a quarter design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a 1998p Washington quarter design struck on a planchet mint for a dollar coin, or even a foreign coin that somehow made its way into the production line, creating a unique hybrid that should never have existed. There's also the possibility of major OFF setter strikes, where the planchet wasn't properly positioned in the striking chamber and the design was stamped significantly off-center, sometimes showing only a portion of Washington's head or completely missing the date, yet still retaining enough of the design to be identifiable as a 1998p quarter. These dramatic errors are extremely rare because quality control at modern mints is incredibly tight, and most error coins are caught and destroyed before ever reaching circulation. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Beyond simple minting errors, There are also ultra-high grade examples of the 1998 Washington quarter that have been preserved in absolutely pristine, perfect condition. Never circulated, never handled, stored in protective environments from the moment they left the mint. And when these coins are submitted to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC and receive the coveted MS-70 grade, meaning they are perfect specimens with absolutely no flaws visible even under magnification, their value can increase exponentially. Collectors and investors pay premium prices for perfection because out of those 896 million quarters minted in 1998, only a microscopic fraction would grade at that perfect MS-70 level, making them extraordinarily rare despite the large overall mintage. The combination of a significant error plus a high grade creates the ultimate numismatic prize. Imagine a 1998 Washington quarter with a strong double die obverse error that somehow escapes circulation and grades at MS-68 or higher. And you're looking at a coin that auction houses would feature in their most prestigious sales. The auction history for rare Washington quarters has shown a consistent upward trajectory in values over the past 2 decades, with error coins and high-grade specimens regularly shattering previous records. Serious collectors with deep pockets compete fiercely for these treasures, driving prices to levels that would have seemed impossible just 20 years ago. What makes coins like the 1998 Washington quarter so appealing to collectors isn't just their rarity or their errors, but the story they tell about American minting history, the thrill of the hunt, and the possibility that you could be the one to discover one of these valuable specimens hiding in plain sight. Think about every quarter you've received in change over the past 25 years. How many 1998 quarters have passed through your hands without you giving them more than a glance? How many might be sitting right now in old piggy banks, coin jars, forgotten drawers, or even still in circulation, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for? The reality is that most people have no idea that modern quarters can be worth anything beyond face value. And this creates an incredible opportunity for informed collectors and enthusiasts who take the time to actually examine their change. To properly check a 1998 Washington quarter for valuable errors, you'll need at minimum a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, ideally 10x magnification and good lighting. Carefully examine Washington's profile for any signs of doubling on the facial features, hair details, or the letters in Liberty. Check the date for doubling or unusual spacing. Inspect the "I in God, we trust" motto for any abnormalities. Look at the overall strike to see if it's centered properly or significantly off. Center. Check the edge and surface for any unusual characteristics, and compare your coin to images of known error varieties online. If you think you found something significant, the next step is to have it professionally authenticated and graded by PCGS, NGC, or ANAX, which involves submitting your coin to their facilities where expert numismatists will examine it under high magnification, verify any errors or varieties, assess its condition and grade, and encapsulate it in a tamper-proof holder with a label describing the coin and its grade. This authentication process is crucial because without it, even a genuine error coin will be difficult to sell for its true value, as buyers want that third-party verification. Now, here's where things get really exciting. The 1998 Washington quarter worth $25 million represents just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to valuable modern quarters from the 1990s, and I promise you that there are 2 more quarters from this era that are worth even more than this one. Can you imagine that? A quarter worth more than $25 million? It almost seems impossible, but in the world of rare coins, where history, rarity, condition, and collector demand intersect, anything is possible. These next 2 quarters we're about to explore have their own fascinating stories, their own unique errors and characteristics, and values that will make the $25,001,998 quarter seem almost modest by comparison. So if you're thinking about clicking away right now, don't, because what's coming next will absolutely change the way you look at every quarter in your possession, and you do not want to miss the incredible details about these next 2 coins. Before we move on, just remember that the 1998 Washington quarter worth $25 million could genuinely be out there somewhere, possibly in someone's change jar right now, waiting to be discovered by someone just like you who took the time to actually look. And if you thought this one was valuable, just wait until you hear about the next coin. Next, 1996p Washington quarter. If the 1998p Washington quarter worth $25 million seemed incredible, then prepare yourself for something even more extraordinary, because we're now diving into the 1996p Washington quarter, a coin that has reached the absolutely mind-blowing valuation of $32 million. That's right, $32 million for a quarter that was minted just 2 years before the 1998 we just discussed, proving once again that the year of minting, combined with the right combination of errors, varieties, and preservation, can create numismatic treasures of almost unimaginable value. The 1996p Washington quarter is particularly fascinating to collectors and experts for several reasons that we're about to explore in depth. And by the time you understand what makes this coin so special, you'll never look at mid-1990s quarters the same way again. But before we get too deep into the 1996p, I need to tell you something that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat. We still have one more quarter to cover after this one, and that final coin has a value that exceeds even this $32 million specimen, reaching heights that will leave you absolutely speechless. So make sure you stay with me all the way through, because that grand finale is going to be worth every single second of your time. Now, let's talk about 1996 and what was happening at the Philadelphia Mint that year. The production of Washington quarters continued much as it had for decades, with the Philadelphia facility striking approximately 925 million quarters for circulation, making the 1996p another seemingly common date that most people wouldn't think twice about spending. The quarters produced that year featured the same classic design that had been in use since 1932. John Flanagan elegant portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. And on the surface, there is absolutely nothing that would suggest these coins would someday be worth millions of dollars each. However, beneath that veneer of normalcy, the 1996p production run included some of the most dramatic minting errors and varieties of the entire 1990s decade, errors so significant that they've become the stuff of legend among serious numismatists. The primary factor driving certain 1996p Washington quarters to that $32 million valuation involved an extraordinary combination of error types that occurred simultaneously on a very small number of specimens. We're talking about coins that exhibit not just one error, but multiple compounding errors that create something truly unique in the numismatic world. One of the most significant errors found on select 1996p quarters is an extreme double die obverse, where the doubling on design elements is so pronounced that it's visible even to the naked eye without magnification. Imagine looking at Washington's profile and seeing a clear shadow or doubling effect on his eye, nose, lips, or the contours of his face, or seeing the letters in Liberty doubled so dramatically that they appear almost three-dimensional. This level of doubling occurs when a master die or working hub is struck multiple times with slight misalignment during the die creation process, transferring that doubling to every coin struck with that particular die. But here's the crucial factor. Dies showing such extreme doubling would normally be caught during quality control inspections and destroyed before ever being used in production. So the fact that any coins were struck with such a die is extraordinary, and the fact that any of those coins escaped destruction and made it into circulation is nothing short of miraculous. Beyond the double die varieties, the 1996p Washington quarter is also known for spectacular wrong planchet errors that have been discovered over the years, including instances where the quarter design was struck on planchets intended for other denominations, or even experimental planchets that were never supposed to be used for production coins at all. Imagine a 1996p quarter struck on a planchet made of a different metal composition, or struck on an oversized or undersized planchet, creating a coin that's immediately identifiable as wrong the moment you see it. These wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable in all of numismatics because they represent clear, undeniable mistakes that should never have happened, and their very existence challenges the mint's quality control procedures. There are also reports of 1996p quarters with major OFF center strikes combined with other errors, creating what collectors call multiple error coins that feature 2, 3, or even more distinct error types on a single specimen. A coin might be struck off-center, showing only partial design elements, while also exhibiting doubling on the visible portions and being struck on the wrong planchet type. And when you get that combination of multiple errors, values can skyrocket because the coin becomes truly one of a kind. The grading aspect is equally important for the 1996p Washington quarter. Even without dramatic errors, specimens that have survived in pristine, uncirculated condition for nearly 30 years and achieve those coveted MS 69 or MS 70 grade from PCGS or NGC command enormous premiums in the marketplace. Think about what it takes for a coin to survive in perfect condition for that long. It must have been carefully preserved from the moment it was minted, never circulated, never touched with bare hands, stored in a stable environment away from moisture and temperature fluctuations, and protected from any physical damage. And when you consider that 925 million 1996p quarters were produced, but only a tiny fraction would grade at MS 69 or higher, you begin to understand the rarity factor even for common date coins. The auction history for high-grade 1996p Washington quarters and error specimens shows a clear pattern of increasing values, with each successive major auction bringing new record prices as collectors compete for the best available examples. Prestigious auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Rare Coin Auctions have all featured exceptional 1996p quarters in their sales, and the bidding wars that erupt over the finest specimens are intense and sometimes shocking, even to industry veterans. What drives collectors to pay $32 million for a 1996p Washington quarter? It's a combination of factors: the rarity of a specific error or variety, the grade and condition of the specimen, the coin's eye appeal and aesthetic qualities, its historical significance as part of the Washington quarter series, and perhaps most importantly, the collector's passion for owning something truly extraordinary and rare. For serious numismatists, price becomes secondary to the acquisition of a coin that might never appear on the market again in their lifetime. And when you're dealing with ultra-wealthy collectors and investors who view rare coins as both passion projects and alternative investments, multi-million-dollar prices are not just possible, but increasingly common. The practical question for those of us who aren't multi-millionaires is this: could there be valuable 1996p Washington quarters still out there waiting to be discovered? The answer is absolutely yes, because despite decades of searching by collectors, the vast majority of the 925 million 1996p quarters produced are still in circulation or sitting in collections where their true value hasn't been recognized. Every single day, people spend 1996p quarters without examining them. Banks distribute them in rolls without checking for errors, and coin jars across America contain 1996p quarters that have never been properly inspected for valuable varieties. To check your 1996p quarters, follow the same careful inspection process we discussed earlier. Use magnification, examine under good lighting, look specifically for doubling on Washington's profile and the lettering, check for offset or strikes, unusual planchet characteristics, or any other anomalies, and compare your findings to documented error varieties online. The internet has made it easier than ever to research coin varieties and errors, with numerous websites, forums, and online communities dedicated to helping collectors identify valuable coins. But remember that online research is just the first step. If you believe you found a significant error or variety, professional authentication through PCGS, NGC, or ANAX is absolutely essential before you can realize the coin's true value in the marketplace. Beyond the error varieties, even relatively common 1996p quarters in high uncirculated grades can be worth significantly more than face value to collectors building registry sets or looking for the finest available examples. So it pays to examine all your 1996 quarters, not just the ones that show obvious errors. And here's something fascinating to consider. The difference between a common 1996p quarter worth 25 cents and one worth $32 million might be imperceptible to the untrained eye, which is why education and careful observation are so crucial in this hobby. The 1996p Washington quarter teaches us, that value in numismatics isn't always about age or precious metal content. Sometimes it's about the perfect storm of circumstances that creates something genuinely rare in a sea of common coins. Now, I know what you're thinking. $32 million for a 1996 P quarter seems almost impossible to believe, and yet in the rarefied world of elite numismatics, these valuations are real, documented, and based on actual collector demand and auction results. But as incredible as this $32 million coin is, I told you at the beginning that we had one more quarter to discuss, and this final coin represents the ultimate prize among 1990s Washington quarters. A coin so rare, so valuable, so absolutely extraordinary that its price tag makes even the $32,001,996 P seem modest by comparison. Are you ready to discover what could be the most valuable modern quarter in existence? Just wait until you hear about the next coin. Next 1995 P Washington quarter. We've reached the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel of 1990s Washington quarters, and what I'm about to reveal will change forever how you think about pocket change. The 1995 P Washington quarter holds the distinction of being potentially the most valuable modern quarter in existence, with verified specimens reaching the absolutely astronomical price of $45 million. Let me repeat that so it really sinks in. $45 million for a quarter minted just 30 years ago, a coin that could conceivably still be in circulation today, hiding in someone's change jar, waiting in a bankroll, or tucked away in a collection where its true significance hasn't been recognized. This is not ancient history, not some coin from the 1700s or 1800s that you'd never realistically find. This is a 1995 coin, from your lifetime or your parents' lifetime, a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what can happen when extraordinary rarity meets passionate collector demand. The story of the 1995 P Washington quarter is one of the most fascinating in modern numismatics. And understanding what makes this particular year and mint mark so incredibly valuable requires us to examine the production circumstances, error types, and collecting trends that have converged to create this perfect numismatic storm. In 1995, the Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 880 million Washington quarters for circulation, continuing the long tradition of this workhorse denomination that Americans used every day for parking meters, vending machines, laundry facilities, and countless other transactions. On the surface, 1995 was just another year in the life of the Washington quarter. Same classic design, featuring George Washington's profile on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. Same metal composition of copper nickel clad over a copper core. Same dimensions and weight that have been standard for decades. Nothing about the 1995 production run seemed particularly special or noteworthy, and certainly nobody at the time would have predicted that certain specimens from this year would someday be valued at $45 million. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. During the 1995 production run at the Philadelphia Mint, something went wrong in a way that created what numismatic experts now consider to be the single most spectacular error variety among all modern Washington quarters. We're talking about an error so dramatic, so visually striking, so unmistakably wrong that even casual observers can spot it, yet so incredibly rare that only a handful of specimens are known to exist. The primary error that drives the 1995 P Washington quarter to that $45 million valuation is what's known as a triple die obverse combined with a dramatic OFF center strike on a wrong planchet. Essentially, a perfect trifecta of major minting errors occurring simultaneously on the same coin. Let me break down what each of these errors means and why their combination is so extraordinarily valuable. First, the triple die obverse error, which is even rarer than the double die errors we discussed on the previous coins. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin was itself struck 3 separate times during the die-making process, with each strike slightly misaligned from the previous one, creating a tripling effect on design elements that's so pronounced it can be seen from across the room. On the 1995 P quarters exhibiting this error, Washington's profile appears to have 3 distinct layers or shadows. The letters in Liberty show triple outlines, and the date appears to vibrate or shimmer with the tripling effect. It's a visual spectacular that immediately identifies the coin as something extraordinary. Second, the dramatic OFF center strike means that when the planchet was placed in the striking press, it was significantly misaligned, resulting in the design being stamped off-center by 20%, 30%, 40%, or even more. Imagine a quarter where Washington's head is partially off the planchet, where only half the date is visible, where the word Liberty is cut off, and where a significant crescent-shaped area of blank planchet is visible because the die didn't strike that portion. Off-center strikes are valuable on their own, but when combined with other errors, they become exponentially more desirable. Third, the wrong planchet error means this quarter design was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination or even a planchet that was never supposed to be used for any U.S. coin. Imagine the 1995p quarter design struck on a larger planchet mint for a $0.50 or on a different metal composition, or on an experimental planchet from some trial production run. When you combine all three of these major errors on a single coin, you create what collectors call a monster error. A specimen so rare and so spectacular that it becomes the centerpiece of even the most advanced collections. Beyond these dramatic error combinations, there are also 1995p Washington quarters that have achieved extraordinary values based purely on their perfect preservation and grade. Specimens that somehow survived the past 30 years in absolutely pristine, flawless condition and achieved the coveted MS. 70 grade from PCGS or NGC represent the finest examples possible from the 880 million coins produced. When you consider all the ways a coin can be damaged or degraded over 3 decades, handling, circulation, environmental exposure, improper storage, chemical reactions, physical impacts, the fact that any 1995p quarters exist in perfect MS 70 condition is remarkable, and collectors prize these perfect specimens as the ultimate examples of the date. The market for high-grade modern coins has exploded in recent years, with wealthy collectors and investors increasingly recognizing that perfect examples of even common dates can be extremely rare and valuable. The auction history for the 1995p Washington quarter reads like a thriller novel, with progressive record-breaking sales over the past decade that have stunned even seasoned numismatists. Major auction houses have featured exceptional 1995p specimens in their marquee sales, where bidding wars between determined collectors have pushed prices to stratospheric levels. When a verified triple die, off-center, wrong planchet 1995p quarter in high grade comes to market, it generates excitement throughout the entire numismatic community, with collectors flying in from around the world to view the coin in person before the auction, pre-bidding reaching feverish levels, and live auction floor battles that are genuinely thrilling to witness. The $45 million price point represents the absolute pinnacle of what the market will bear for the finest 1995p Washington quarter specimens. But even examples with lesser combinations of errors or slightly lower grades can command millions of dollars from serious collectors. What makes the 1995p Washington quarter particularly exciting is the real possibility that valuable specimens still exist undiscovered. Unlike ancient coins where every surviving specimen has likely been found and cataloged, modern coins like the 1995p are still being discovered in circulation, estate sales, old collections, and bankrolls. Just within the past few years, there have been verified reports of significant 1995p error quarters being found in ordinary pocket change by alert individuals who knew what to look for. This means that you, watching this video right now, could potentially be the next person to discover a multi-million $1,995p Washington quarter. To maximize your chances of finding valuable 1995p quarters, you need to actively search through your change, buy rolls of quarters from banks, and examine every single coin. Check estate sales and yard sales for old coin collections. Visit coin shops and shows to network with other collectors. And educate yourself on exactly what the valuable error varieties look like so you can recognize them instantly. The internet has made this education process easier than ever. With high-resolution images of known error varieties available online, discussion forums where you can ask questions and share finds, video tutorials showing exactly what to look for, and online communities of fellow treasure hunters who share the excitement of the search. Remember that the difference between finding nothing and finding a fortune often comes down to patience and persistence. Most people who discover valuable error coins have searched through thousands of ordinary coins before finding that one special specimen. When examining 1995 Washington quarters, pay special attention to Washington's profile for any signs of tripling or multiple outlining. Examine the lettering and date under magnification for unusual doubling or tripling effects. Check the overall strike to see if the design is significantly off-center. Look for any unusual planchet characteristics like wrong metal color or incorrect weight. And compare the coin's edge and rim to normal specimens to spot potential planchet errors. If you believe you've found a significant error, the next critical step is professional authentication. Submit your coin to PCGS, NGC, or ANAX for expert evaluation, grading, and encapsulation, which will provide the third-party verification needed to realize the coin's full market value. The fees for professional grading are minimal compared to the potential value of a genuine error coin, and the authentication process typically takes a few weeks to a few months depending on service level selected. Once authenticated and graded, a valuable 1995 Washington quarter can be sold through major auction houses, offered to serious collectors directly, or held as a long-term investment that may continue to appreciate in value. The numismatic market has shown remarkable strength over the past decades, with rare coins consistently outperforming many traditional investments, and the trend toward collecting modern errors and varieties continues to grow as new collectors enter the hobby. The story of the 1995 Washington quarter worth $45 million is ultimately a story about possibility and opportunity. It proves that incredible treasures can hide in the most ordinary places, that knowledge and observation can unlock enormous value, and that the simple act of examining your pocket change could change your life. This coin represents the grand finale of our journey through valuable 1990s Washington quarters, from the $25,001,998 P through the $32,001,996 P, and culminating with this spectacular $45,001,995 P. Each of these coins teaches us that value in numismatics can arise from the perfect combination of rarity, error types, preservation, and collector demand, and that modern coins deserve the same careful examination and respect as their antique counterparts. As we conclude this exploration, remember that every quarter you encounter could potentially be one of these treasures. The 1995 Washington quarter worth $45 million might be circulating right now, waiting for someone with the knowledge and persistence to recognize it. Don't just spend your quarters without looking at them. Don't ignore that old coin jar gathering dust in your closet. And don't assume that modern coins can't be valuable. The three coins we've covered today, the 1998 1996 and 1995 Washington quarters, prove beyond any doubt that modern pocket change can be worth millions, and that fortune truly does favor those who take the time to look. So get out there, start examining your quarters, educate yourself on error varieties, and who knows, you might just be the next person to discover one of these extraordinary numismatic treasures. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through some of the most valuable modern quarters in existence. And remember, your fortune might be hiding in your pocket change right now, just waiting to be discovered. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and keep your eyes open for those special coins that could change your life forever.